We've heard people saying that this pipeline is crossing Lake Victoria, it is crossing 70 rivers.
The most important thing that we should always do to our leaders is to give them facts. Because if they err in their decision making, the country suffers, the region suffers, the people suffer.
Welcome yet again to our podcast. This time we are hosting another distinguished gentleman. We call him Mr. Pipeline, but he will do his quick introduction. My name again is Ashaba Agre. I'm the chairman of the Chamber of Energy and Minerals. And today with me, I have the pleasure of hosting a gentleman who has basically been known as the pipeline man for Uganda. He's been part of the journey. He has a distinguished career around the petroleum sector. And he's none other than John Bosco Habomjisha. John, very welcome to this podcast. And if you could be able to speak to the viewers, your journey and how you ended up being Mr. Pipeline and how much the previous education background, work experience has shaped your career so far.
Thank you, Agre. It's an interesting journey. When I joined the energy sector, Ministry of Energy, 2009, the mission was that we had to study feeder lines, the lines that were to bring crude oil from the oil fields to the refinery. And that's where we began. My first task was to develop terms of reference for consultants because this was a new story. And when I joined, of course, I joined as a mechanical engineer. I had been into a number of fields. I had been in the downstream petroleum, working with Total Energies for about 7 years. And then I had done international service, but also handling petroleum logistics with the United Nations. I'd been to Australia to study specialization in industrial engineering. And so I joined the team. And we had to find skilled talent globally to help us develop a framework for feeder lines. The ones we now call the Kingfisher feeder line and the Tilenga feeder line. I was privileged to be the first pipeline person to develop those concepts. So when we developed them, then along the way we realized that there is going to be more infrastructure. Of course, the oil and gas policy, the structure was that it's value addition. All the oil will be produced and refined in Uganda. And then there was a new development from their investors that they wanted a mixed model that allows both refining.
Can you explain to the viewer what is a mixed model?
Basically, a model that allows both refining in the country and oil export to the international market. The reason being that for investors, they are managing risk in terms of you are investing quite significant amount of money. In the oil fields, you're approaching almost $8 to $10 billion. As an investor, you want to know, how do I get my money back?
Quickly.
And so what happened is there had to be a lot of negotiation between the state and the investors. And by the end of 2011, an agreement had been reached, an MOU was signed to allow both refining and crude oil export. Now, crude oil export meant an export pipeline. And this country had not thought about an export pipeline. So the story became, how do we develop an export pipeline? Who are our team leaders? Who are they? Where are they? Who is our best suited team leader? So we needed a team leader before we find a team. And so I was asked to actually go back and study another master's, but this time in pipeline engineering. So I ended up in UK under the presidential initiatives to develop oil and gas experts. And when I came back, the first task was to set up a team because we needed members to join. And so we had to identify people quickly to go and study, as we also developed a concept of how do you route this pipeline? Where do you pass? You're going to the ocean. Uganda is land-linked. That's the new catchword. Uganda is land-linked. So you either go through Kenya or Tanzania. But you're looking for the shortest route because...
and most cost-effective.
Cost-effective. Shortest because it's cost per kilometer. So the shorter, the better. The shortest pipeline is a straight line. But you will never find a straight pipeline because you meet many constraints along the way. So you define where you start from the oil fields, and where you're going at the port. You draw a straight line, then you start moving because of constraints. Constraints include things like water bodies. You're not going to cross a lake like Lake Victoria. There were that rumor that we are going through Lake Victoria. You cannot do that. So, of course, you have to go around it. You will find steep slopes. You're not going to just go through a very steep slope because you want a short pipeline. Because constructability in pipelines is very important. You're not going through a major national park. If you can avoid it, you have to. If you cannot avoid it, you need special authorizations, and we managed to avoid most of them. The only one we failed to avoid was the one near Chato. But when you go there, you find that we followed a highway. We're not allowed to go anywhere else. We had followed the highway. There are many constraints. And then, of course, you should go to a port that is operational, that has the depth to receive a vessel that loads crude oil. In this case, we needed at least 15 to 17 meters water depth. So we went through so many things, and then there was another constraint, the word security. In oil and gas, the first parameter you have to deal with is security. You need to build this pipeline in a secure environment. So putting all those parameters together, we had to negotiate with our neighbors until a decision was made by the states to go through Tanzania. And that required that we develop an intergovernmental agreement. Now, all these regional infrastructures, you cannot go through a country that has not signed an international agreement with you. So we had to go through another process, and I saw the legal fraternity engage. I saw the country go into training oil and gas experts in oil and gas negotiations. I saw young people go to study finance. I saw so many things. I saw communication experts developed in oil and gas. And along the way, then you realize that actually these things are happening. Initially, it sounded like it's just theory.
Like a pipe dream.
A pipe dream. Now a pipe dream is becoming a reality. So it has been an amazing experience. Then, of course, we had to have investors. This is a $4 billion investment. There are very few countries that would do such a project alone. You need investors who are committed to such a project, who are willing to put their risk money. And, of course, you go through negotiations. And we had to negotiate a host government agreement, both in Uganda and in Tanzania. Now, when we were closing that routing of the pipeline, my experience, I had never been in an environment where you have high-stakes political negotiations in the corridors of power. I was in the State House in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Kenya. And then you find the grace to stand because you realize that all you need is facts and the truth and commitment to developing the region. So we had to put all these facts on the table to help our leaders make informed decisions. Agri, I can tell you, at that level of decision making, the most important thing that we should always do to our leaders is to give them facts. Because if they err in their decision making, the country suffers, the region suffers, the people suffer.
No, I do agree entirely with you on that one, because I do recall under the Northern Corridor Integration Projects,
Yes.
we were part of the delegations that used to visit these countries, as you technical people were doing most of the discussions. That did not just include the pipeline, but there was also the power and road and rail, basically the whole logistics corridor. And yes, you could feel the tension, you could feel the high stakes discussions, and we do appreciate the work that you guys put in, especially yourself and the whole team that you are working with, and obviously His Excellency the President, in making sure that, as you rightly said, when he has the facts on the table, he will make the correct decision. Maybe what John has not told you is that he's also the Deputy General Manager for the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, which is the holding entity that is in charge of doing the pipeline all the way from the Albertine area down to Tanga, that will be exporting our crude oil. But maybe just to take you back,
Right.
JB, commonly known as JB, is that how long is this pipeline? Why is it heated? And what are the challenges or the issues that have been raised by the green activists against the pipeline, knowing that Uganda has been very diligent in developing its oil and gas project?
Thank you, Agri. Now, the EACOP, or the East African Crude Oil Pipeline, is such a robust infrastructure that had to be designed to be able to transport Uganda's crude oil. Now, Uganda's crude oil is waxy, it's heavy, and solidifies at room temperature. So the challenge was to keep it liquid and therefore pumpable, because pumps deal with the liquids. And we are pumping a liquid that, if you allow temperatures to fall to room temperature, will solidify, and you'd end up with a long candle. So we had to go through the studies with our colleagues in the oil science. And so we agreed that we do the analytics, and we realized that we can transport this oil in liquid form above 55 degrees Celsius. Now, once you say 55 degrees, how do you sustain it? So you have to insulate the pipe so that you don't lose the heat, because the energy you need is heat energy, to be able to stay above 55 degrees Celsius all the way 1,443 kilometers from Hoima to Tanga. So there are people who say, this heated pipeline is going to destroy the environment. No, we don't want to lose the energy. So we actually have this pipeline it's like a thermos flask. If you touch your thermos flask at home, you are above 90 degrees Celsius, but the flask is, you don't feel anything. For the pipeline, we are talking about 55 degrees.
About half.
Yeah, almost half of the heat energy you have in a flask. And it's a buried pipeline. That's very important also to note, that this pipeline is buried. When we finish construction, we shall restore the environment. You will not even know that the pipeline passes.
Actually, the Total GM, Philippe,
Right.
Philippe told me that when that is done, restoration, is that people can actually even plant their crops on there.
And
cows
will graze.
You will never know.
And you will only know that there's a pipeline when you visit the pump station. So that's when it comes out of the ground, goes through the pumps, and then goes back
so
into the ground.
So basically, economic activity will continue after
Absolutely.
the ground has been restored.
Absolutely. And that's one of the key elements of this development, that as a company, we are committed to the highest standards of environmental protection. So restoration of the environment is key. But of course, the other aspects are around sustainable development. We are also using green energy. The power we are using to heat this pipeline is hydropower. The most green power you'll ever talk about is hydro. Where we have any shortage, we have installed the solar farms in Tanzania.
As backup?
Yes, so that in case there is any issue with the hydro supply, then we have backup power. So it's a green project. It's very, very robust. We can assure all our people in the region and beyond that EACOP has been designed using the best technologies available. It's a thick pipe. It's not going to be exploding in the environment. We have installed leak detection systems. We have installed a SCADA system, which is meant to help us to monitor the system in real time. We have 2 control rooms, one in Uganda and one in Tanzania. If you're in any of the control rooms, you can see the entire system. You can operate it from any of the 2. One is backing up the other so that we have continuity. Effectively, it's a system that is very intelligent. If we have a problem in any of the sections, we are able to isolate that section. We have installed block valves. You can isolate that section, deal with the issue, and reconnect once the issue is sorted. So it's a properly designed, robust, intelligent, sustainable project.
So, and you've heard from JB, the pipeline man. Why then, and probably you could speak to this issue, because we've heard people saying that this pipeline is crossing Lake Victoria, it is crossing 70 rivers, it is going to be polluting the environment. What would you speak about these environmental concerns and also debunking the myth? Because we are very sure that there is no pipeline crossing Lake Victoria, neither do we have 70 rivers that it's traversing.
Yes, I agree. We are not going through Lake Victoria because Lake Victoria, it's even not economic to cross Lake Victoria, then let alone the key environmental aspects. And but just to let also people appreciate, if you go to offshore fields that are in the ocean, there are lines we call subsea pipelines that are on the seabed. So it's also not a myth that you can build a line in a water body.
It's possible.
If you go to the North Sea,
that's what they do.
The seabed is full of pipes.
And they're okay.
And it's okay because they are designed for that environment. Any field that is in the ocean, if you go to the Gulf of Mexico, which is now Gulf of America, it's full of pipes. And the most important thing is that they are designed in a manner that suits that environment. But in East Africa, the EACOP, we are not going through Lake Victoria. We are going around it. You will not avoid all the rivers. We avoid them. But the one you cannot avoid, you cross it using appropriate technology. Like, for example, if you go to the River Nile section in northern Uganda, Total Energies had to cross the river. But there is a whole horizontal directional drilling technology that is used. We shall be crossing River Kagera. You start from one side, you go under the river almost 10 meters. You don't touch the river, you don't touch the river bed. You are 10 meters below the river bed. Not in the water, the river bed. So you never touch that river. Where we meet swamps, the construction technology allows us to do open cut. You open the swamp, you build your line, you anchor the line, and restore the swamp.
Like
no one will ever know
ground.
that there is a pipe there. The swamp will grow backwards. It will be a normal swamp. So yes, we do all of these practices in a manner that is appropriate, that meets international standards. The construction of pipeline systems across wetlands, across rivers, has standards that must be complied with. This project has been audited internationally because it is funded internationally but by very many financiers. They have sent teams to evaluate, to check and see, does this line meet the standards? I can assure you, we have exceeded those standards.
No, I think the fundamental point here is that even if there was anything to do with water bodies, it is not a new science.
There's nothing new about it.
It is being done elsewhere,
Absolutely.
and there is no major concern for as long as you have your technologies right and the infrastructure is already existing.
Absolutely.
For all offshores, as you rightly said, and for the EACOP, you have provided for areas where you have these obstacles, as you called them, appropriate technologies to maneuver and make sure that the environment remains as it was after restoration.
Absolutely.
And I think that is a fantastic point you make. Right. I just wanted to also highlight for you, and maybe you could amplify, there have also been issues around emissions, Scope 1, Scope 2, and all these provisions. I know you have appropriate mitigation measures around that. Could you be able to highlight or amplify a bit on that aspect?
Yes, thank you. I agree. Of course, the starting point is that EACOP is a transport system.
Infrastructure.
Basically, transport. We do not own the oil. So what matters for EACOP right now is what is the contribution of EACOP to the carbon footprint, and what are we doing to mitigate our impacts. The first thing that EACOP had to do was to make sure that the energy we are using is green. And I've already told you, we are using green energy everywhere in our system. Then the second aspect is that because we are using a land corridor, we had to deal with the issues of trees. Because if you meet trees, you don't want trees in the corridor. We have made commitments with the Ministry of Water and Environment in Uganda and also in Tanzania. We are planting over twice as much trees as we may remove. In Uganda, we have already planted
along the pipeline
along
route.
the corridor. Because we have to remove the trees. So we are planting at least twice as much.
Fantastic.
So if we remove one tree, we must plant two minimum. And in Uganda, we have almost exceeded that number.
Already?
We are working with the Catholic Church. Okay. Catholic Church has given us over 350 acres.
Ooh.
Uganda Kingdom is giving us land. Bunyoro is giving us a hill.
Okay.
And all of these are going to be EACOP green spaces.
Fantastic.
So everything we are doing, we are ensuring that matters of environment, because that's the first audit scope in terms of financing the EACOP. And every lender, every investor is happy with the work we are doing. Scope 2 for a transport system is you are not able to assess Scope 2.
Okay, maybe just for the benefit also of the viewers, just to unpack Scope 1 and Scope 2 so they can be able to understand within the context of greenhouse gases and emissions. So they understand.
Yes, so Scope 1 deals with our direct impacts, our direct contribution
which you already mitigated.
Which we have mitigated and exceeded.
And more.
And we are not about to stop transforming the environment for the better.
Okay.
Now, Scope 2 relates to the entities we work with. For example, when we deliver the oil, it goes to a refinery. Now, that becomes a discussion for the refinery. So for a transport system, our performance in terms of the carbon footprint
is measured by Scope 1.
Is Scope 1.
Which you already...
And we have done...
Even before you start operation.
We have done more than anyone can do. And anyone who wants to verify is welcome, because we have worked with every lender, every investor, to ensure that they appreciate the work we are doing.
Which brings me to the next question. Is that with that confidence from all the lenders, from all the auditors and all the financiers, now that you did financial closure last month, does that imply that that is the confidence that the financial institutions have in the project and they have gone ahead to make these commitments to the project?
Yes, agree. One of the learnings I've gone through in this project is what financing actually means. Project financing has been such a complex process. I've seen protracted negotiations, complex agreements, insurance processes. By the time you finish all these things and the project is financed, all the questions you'd raise are answered. We have had to respond to very many things: human rights, environment, social safeguards, all the words you can talk about. Every investor wants to know.
Compensation, everything
Have
that
you have the
has
land?
been
The land you're taking.
used
Have
to
you
attack the
compensated the people? Well, we have to take
they have
them
all
to
been
the field.
ticked.
They have seen the houses we have built.
Tick.
They have seen the livelihood restoration programs we have
Tick.
done. If there's a grievance, if you had
Mechanism.
grievances,
Tick.
they go through them. Every element that would affect social safeguards had to be checked. The environmental aspect had to be checked. So, but I have seen complexity, but I also have seen success. Success for this project that is now a financed project. And if there is anyone who wants to come and participate in the financing of this project, we have welcomed them. Discussions are ongoing because there is always room for an investor. So, welcome any investor who wants to come and participate in the project. It has already been assessed, verified, approved at international level.
That is amazing and very comforting that the financing is there, and all the issues that have been raised by people who thought that this project did not meet the necessary standards. The financing people are saying, hold on, we do believe in the project, and they have put money on the table. But now just to come to you and ask, for an average Ugandan, how important and how significant is this pipeline project to Umuntu wa Wansi?
Oh, yes. Umuntu wa Wansi. The first thing normally you would want to see on a project like this, you need to come to the site and see. The workers are locals. When we go to a community and we need unskilled labor, we don't cross that community. We pick from the community all the workers on site. You will see many pictures of our sites. Our workers are from the community. Then we have had to employ people to work with the social aspects of the project. We hire from the communities. If the communities don't have them, we hire from outside the community but within the country. So I can tell you on employment, over 90% of our workers are locals, both in Uganda and in Tanzania. That is one. Two, supply of goods and services. If there are any services or goods that can be supplied locally, we source them locally. And that is already a framework that is regulated even in the country. Is there a shortage of service or goods in the country before you import them? And I can tell you there are very many companies that are working with us. We are doing logistics, we have local companies. We are doing catering services, we are looking for local companies. We are looking for, when we cross an area that is rocky, we have to import materials to protect the pipeline in terms of soil and other things. All those are done by locals. So logistics is localized, employment is localized, security services, we are not importing, they are all local companies. So pick any area, you'll find that a Ugandan is at the heart of this project, and that is not going to stop.
Thank you for that clarity. So ladies and gentlemen, you've heard that the project has immense opportunities. Financing has been closed. It's going to be fast-tracked. So the sooner we are there to be able to participate, the better for all of us. But maybe as we come to an end of this, is that the pipeline is also supposed to generate revenue for the country.
Yes.
As a revenue source, as one of the different areas of getting the money through. I don't know whether after construction, EACOP will continue to manage the revenue models, or after that, there is no EACOP to exist anymore. Maybe just to clarify that
now,
issue.
after we finish construction, which I can tell you we are targeting 2026, maybe second half of 2026. Once we finish construction, then EACOP evolves into an operation company. Okay. Right now it's construction. We are already building the model for the operational phase. So EACOP continues, but what we manage is we receive volumes from the owners of the oil. EACOP does not own the oil. Oil is owned by the oil producers, Total Energies, CNOOC, the Uganda National Oil Company, and the government of Uganda. We transport for the owners, they pay us a tariff. And our revenue for the pipeline system is basically the tariff.
In brief, it's almost like a road toll.
It's
just
like,
for perspective.
It's like you jump on a vehicle.
Expressway.
You jump on a vehicle, a road toll.
Yes.
You pay your tariff, and that's it.
And you go.
The most important thing about this pipeline is that it's the first major regional infrastructure on crude oil. Right now, I can tell you, if there's anyone who discovers oil, it becomes far easier
to plug into,
to tie in and transport, because some fields would not be produced without this pipeline system. So it makes fields that would be uneconomic relevant. So that's one of the key elements of this pipeline. And we have also ensured, maybe just to speak about sustainability, because it's a long-term project, our minimum operational period is 25 years. With more oil, this line is designed to operate for even 50 years. But that requires that we find and tie in more production, which we are confident we'll find. So sustainability requires that we work closely with the people. We develop skills because we need a workforce. We are investing heavily. If you go to UPIC today, you'll find trainees from Uganda and Tanzania in terms of skilling. If you come to our community environment, you'll find us skilling the youth in
different trades.
The things that make them relevant, important, so that they own the project, because it is a long-term sustainable system. Then we have also gone through some water-stressed communities. We have built boreholes for them. In Uganda, so far, 16 are done across all the districts.
Serving about how many people?
In terms of communities, every district we have reached around 3 communities. So almost 30 communities have been reached. So if you look at communities, it depends on how many people are in there. But all around the pipeline system, we have provided safe water, and we are continuing. We have not stopped. Then, of course, solarization. All the houses were built in this country for our positively affected people are solarized. They all have solar systems. We have given water to these people. We have basically ensured that whatever we are doing has to answer to the question of sustainability.
I think that's a fantastic point, is that besides everything that we're speaking about, there is direct benefit to the communities.
Absolutely.
And long-lasting value for them, because doing a borehole, that is not something that is for a year or two. This is something for a lifetime. But I wanted to bring back you to the plugging in on the output or the throughput of the pipeline.
Right.
What is the capacity of the pipeline in respect to any opportunity for regional integration? For example, if South Sudan, and the minister was speaking about this yesterday, would like to plug into the pipeline, can we be able to carry their load? Or if DRC on the other side of Lake Albert would like to plug into, is it possible? Can you speak to how, and our president is very keen on working as a regional bloc.
It's regional, yes.
Would the pipeline be able to, or there would be a need to expand it?
No, we don't need another major pipeline system in East Africa. All we need is short lines to tie into the EACOP. EACOP is designed to carry up to 240,000 barrels per day. And as you know, these oil fields, you produce, you reach peak, you stay at peak for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and then you start
to drop,
to decline. Now, when you start declining, you need additional volumes to be added to the pipeline. So there is no time we will need another pipeline system. And actually, the design is such that we have safety standards that if you needed to add another pump station so that you're able to deliver more volume, you can add another pump station so that you have operational pressures that are improved and you can transport more volume. But we will not need that. We are going to have fields that come on, they peak, they decline. They come on, they peak and decline. And therefore, there will always be capacity available in the pipeline. Beyond that, the country is also building a refinery. The refinery will also need volume. So those two infrastructure are adequate for regional operations, and there is no reason why we should not have other neighbors, South Sudan, DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, even Kenya, just tie in and let's operate as a regional system.
Okay, maybe my final point, and this will be tied into the regional aspect. Is EACOP, or would EACOP be open to expanding their mandate to try and grow a regional network of pipelines, just like His Excellency Obiang was speaking to on his project of 5 countries? And that's the first point, which ties into the second point, that I'm aware that the two governments, again, Uganda and Tanzania, are trying to develop a gas pipeline all the way from the other side, coming back to Uganda to support with the iron and steel, and this is now in the linkages.
Right.
Would EACOP, or that would be a different conversation, be open to making sure that this master planning for the pipelines within the East African region fall within their mandate, or they would support, because they've built the capacity and they know what is required to do exactly what is needed?
Yeah, agree. For the EACOP is basically crude oil. So what matters is that the agreements signed between EACOP and Uganda, EACOP and Tanzania, those host government agreements, they provide for third-party access. Third-party access meaning if there is additional volume, we should be able to take it. And that requires that tying lines are built. So definitely EACOP is highly open and required by the states to be able to receive third-party volumes. Third-party meaning volume from fields that were not initially into the EACOP agreements. And that includes all the regional countries to ensure that we don't need any other infrastructure. This infrastructure is not easy to develop, to finance all those things, and therefore EACOP will accommodate and is able to engage with anyone who has volumes to transport. Now, the gas pipeline is a different conversation, because that becomes a different investment framework from EACOP. But the investors in EACOP are oil and gas companies. All of them are definitely interested in a gas pipeline to the extent of the economics and the other elements of investment decisions. But definitely EACOP has opened the avenue for East Africa to develop its oil and gas infrastructure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, JB, Mr. Pipeline, for sharing with us the EACOP detail, the journey, the advantages, and the value that brings to the country. This is not the last of these podcasts. We shall be reaching out again, but we do appreciate you. But if you have any final parting shots, please, you could share with our listeners and viewers your parting shots.
Thank you, Agri. As I close, maybe just a word for the youth. That development requires infrastructure. And EACOP is one such infrastructure required for a region like East Africa. Now, when people come to you as our youth and they tell you EACOP is a bad thing, stop it, those who are telling you, they are actually working on pipeline networks. If you go to United States, if you go to the entire Europe, you'll find that you'll not see them. Like we told you, EACOP is underground. You'll not see them. But these countries have been built by infrastructure like EACOP, energy infrastructure. you need energy to develop. To develop East Africa, we need energy. Yes, we shall transition, but we need to transition from a vantage point that we have been able to use our resources. So to the youth, if anyone tells you stop EACOP, ask them why. Why did you not stop the ones in your area before you come here? We need energy to develop. Therefore, to our youth, focus on development. You need jobs, you need income, you need development, you need infrastructure, you need EACOP. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you again next time. Bye-bye.
Uganda Chamber of Energy and Minerals for a sustainable future.